right. Welcome back to Heather's on Culture, everyone. Hey, Twinny.
Hey, twin, how you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I wanted to tell the audience
Mm-hmm.
that last night I discovered my second favorite word for you to say. My
Okay.
first favorite word, audience, here we go. Twin,
Uh-huh.
what kind of nuts does your mama put on her sweet potato cake?
Pecan.
Say it one more time. One more time.
Pecan. But not pecan because that just brings up so
No,
much
I'm
imagery in
sorry.
my head that I can't.
Y'all, that New Orleans comes out
Mm-hmm.
right about there. So last night we were talking, and that's when she said my new second favorite word. What is it, twin?
Coupon. I still don't know why that entertains you so. Listen, I was at Popeyes trying to get some chicken and I was looking up coupons and on the app and they played me and
And she told me, she was like, I couldn't get these coupons. I had to stop. I love that New Orleans accent. Love it.
y'all, I be feeling like show and tell because she'll be calling me and she just like, twin, what kind of nuts your mama put on her sweet potato cake? And those of you who have never had sweet potato cake,
Gosh, you
my mother has, she has the corner market on the sweet potato cake with praline pecan filling and cream cheese icing.
I I
Mm,
had
mm, mm.
never tasted it before. It was like my second or third trip down there, and your mom it may have been my first because it was your brother's reception.
Oh, it was at first, yeah.
Yep, and your mom made the sweet potato cake because he wanted it for his reception, and she was like, "Do you wanna taste it?" I said, "Sure, and child." Mm. Love it, love it, love it. Y'all don't know what you're missing. Like I said, I
Mm,
had never heard of it in my life until I tried it then, and I was like, I'm a fan. But
yes,
every time twin says pecans,
pecan.
it tickles me to pieces. But okay, today's episode, twin.
All right, let's get into it. This episode, the idea was sparked while I was reading The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin because I have a goal of finishing 50 books by the end of the year. I'm close. I'm not going to tell y'all where I'm at. I'll tell y'all next episode if I finish or not. But anyways, in The Fire Next Time, Baldwin writes, the danger in the minds of most white Americans is the loss of their identity. And he spells it out like this. Try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shining and all the stars aflame. What he's describing is a world in which white identity is stabilized by a racial order that feels as natural and fixed as the cosmos itself. The black man in this schema functions as a fixed star, so an immovable reference point against which white identity understands itself. So when the star moves, the entire universe trembles. In other words, white identity has historically depended on maintaining a racial hierarchy, right? And maintaining that hierarchy requires constant reinforcement. That means Black life must remain legible, locatable, and visible, not to be understood, but to be monitored so that the white universe can continue to imagine itself as ordered and intact. Woo.
I know. And I mean, honestly, for me, this topic has been like reoccurring. It's been showing up for me everywhere. So in organizing spaces, in politics, and even like in everyday life, like as I'm on social media, it's like these interactions that people just brush off as, no big deal.
Right, exactly. And that's why today's episode matters so much to the both of us because what people keep calling random incidents are actually part of a pattern. It's a system. It's a way that this country has always functioned before it was a country and certainly as it continues when we're about to hit our 250-year anniversary.
Exactly. So we are talking about surveillance and not the CIA kind, not the kind where your phone is listening to you as you talk about shoes and then all of a sudden shows you ads for shoes. We're talking about surveillance as a racial practice. So a way that white supremacy maintains control while pretending it's just being careful.
Yeah, and we wanna say upfront that this isn't just about buzzwords. This episode is about power, which we talked about in our episodes before.
Right.
But this is about who gets to move through the world unbothered and who is constantly being watched, questioned, and corrected.
Because if we don't understand surveillance, then that means that we can't understand policing, we can't understand policy, white liberalism, and even why so many people like feel emboldened to interfere
Mm,
in Black lives like it's their job.
mm, 9 to 5.
Not a
W
fact.
One of the biggest misconceptions about surveillance is that it's neutral, that it's just observation. But surveillance, as we're gonna be talking about today, is never passive. It's relational, it's about power.
And what it really is the belief that some people's existence requires supervision. And so that proximity gives you authority, and then that discomfort gives you permission to intervene in people's lives and movements. So when a white neighbor calls the police on a Black person for existing, that's like not confusion,
Mm.
that's entitlement. They feel entitled to monitor that person and monitor what that person is doing. When a white coworker documents a Black colleague's tone, but ignores their own behavior and their part in evoking that tone, that's surveillance.
And what makes it especially dangerous is how often it's framed as concern. Like, "I was just
Mhm,
worried. I just wanted to check. I was just trying to help.
mhm.
I didn't understand what was going on, and I've never seen that before, and I just needed to make sure that it was okay." And James Baldwin names this exact dynamic in The Fire Next Time. He writes, "It is the innocence which constitutes the crime."
And that line is doing a lot of work there, twin.
It
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
'Cause the innocence, and we're talking about white innocence, allows people or white people to participate in harm without ever seeing themselves as being violent, harmful, disruptive, and this surveillance thrives because it disguises itself as responsibility, but responsibility without accountability.
Right. So I want to give you this analogy, give the audience this analogy to explain a little bit better. If we consider Black culture a house and Black people the residents or owners of the house, white people in general have an inability to function as good house guests. Instead, they try to function more as landlord
Mm.
with the rights to the house, the ability to set the rules within the house so that they feel comfortable with its tenants instead of being good house guests coming in, learning about the culture of that house, what norms of that particular house, and then operating within it.
That brings me and reminds me of this IG account, twin, and I know you've seen it. It's the one where the black man goes around and he's essentially flipping the racial profiling script, right? It's really hilarious. And the comments underneath it can be very funny, can be extremely charged, but
Mhm.
I think it's funny in a ha way and a funny in a funny kind of way. Because he sets up scenarios for unsuspecting white people to be microaggressed or macroaggressed racially in social situations. My introduction to him was with his IG reel where he was policing the front door and the elevator of his controlled access apartment complex. And so he follows this white man to the elevator, holds the elevator door to stop it from closing while he's standing outside. White man is in the elevator, and then he asks him if he lived there, and the white man says yes, but then he demands to see his ID, right? And proceeds to tell him because there've been a string of robberies in the building and the white man fits the description. Dude was not happy and not cooperating while the elevator is being held and he's being questioned.
And I've seen him go into retail spaces and rental stores, and he walks up to white people to ask if they work there. He does all kinds of stuff, and it's hilarious because these white people end up being so offended by it.
Yeah.
But
Or clueless.
or clueless, but this is just a little bit of what Black people experience every single day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I hate when people do that to me in a store, when I'm in a grocery store or I'm just minding my business shopping, Oh, my fate well, when we ain't supporting Target before, but in our past Target days when we
Yeah.
were supporting Target, I literally the look on my face when someone will walk up to me and ask me if I worked at Target and I have not a speck of red on. And it's just like, why are you asking me if I work here? Do you not come to Target? Do you not
No,
see that
right,
everybody
right,
in Target is wearing a red shirt? I am not wearing red at all. Why are
right,
you talking to me? Every other time, like in any other store or Walmart with the blue vest, right? Like,
right,
they'll do that to me there too, and I'm like, "Do I look like I have on a bright blue vest with a
right,
bright yellow sign on my back? I do not. Please stop talking to me right now. I don't work here. Do you work here?" So, but anyway, it turns out that when the shoe is on the other foot, it's not a good look, right?
right,
It's not well received to assume before just based off of the way someone looks or their race, right? So for our listeners, if you want to check him out, his IG is forever band underscore locked in king on IG. And I promise you will be thoroughly entertained.
and band as in BAND, not BANNED.
Thank you, twin. So forever FOREVER BAND underscore locked LOCKEDINKING.
And I think it's really important for people to understand that surveillance doesn't come out of nowhere. Enslaved Black people were constantly monitored, tracked, punished, right?
Mm.
And white citizens were deputized into slave patrols and women's societies and other vehicles for monitoring Black people's behavior and movement. And so surveillance trained whiteness to see itself as authority and to act upon it.
Yeah, and that training never stopped, right? It just changed form like many of these things do. And
Right.
Baldwin explains this when he writes, the white man's unadmitted and apparently unspeakable private fears and longings are projected onto the Negro. Surveillance is what happens when fear refuses to look at itself in the mirror. You know, Michael had a whole song about it. Some people might want to check it out, but
So all of us fear crime, but in this context, surveillance isn't necessarily about fear of crime for white Americans.
yeah, it's about a fear of having to operate in a system where they no longer are centered and privileged. It's a fear of having to confront a history that was built on violence, but is often and almost always narrated as progress for all, when in fact, only white progress is met with only celebration.
Correct. And this is why surveillance ends up intensifying whenever Black people assert any type of autonomy. So, when Black communities organize, when Black leaders gain power, when Black culture flourishes without white permission,
Mm.
without Black people caring, that ends up being a problem.
Right, because BIPOC progress, in particular Black progress, has always caused a surge in sowing seeds of division, racial resentment, and white supremacist violence. And the most recent was the election of Barack Obama and the two-time election of Trump that was fueled by dark white money and voter suppression, let's be real, is the white lash that we see. If you don't know that term, you should look it up. But basically, it's like whiplash, but white lash of white people having to revert back to what they've done before to keep Black folks and other racialized minorities and or racialized groups in check.
And as part of that, surveillance becomes like a stabilizing force. So it's a way to keep Black people fixed in place so that whiteness doesn't have to change.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest part to really focus on. The point of this is that whiteness doesn't have to change if we keep this system in place and if we do everything that we need to keep this system in place. So that is the reason why Black progress is feared, because that progress does in fact cause people to have to confront some things that they may not necessarily want to confront and think about
Yeah.
things that they may not want to think about.
Yeah, and it's always I think that fear that even though no one alive today obviously were slave owners,
Hmm.
right? That they benefit from it, but it's this fear that they're gonna do to us what we did to them, or take revenge on us because of what we did to their ancestors. And so it's this fear of losing whiteness and what comes with whiteness and how whiteness is a property and how whiteness is valuable, but also a fear of this revenge that is ugly
Yeah.
and violent and demeaning and demoralizing. This is where it gets very real because as we're talking about, surveillance isn't just historical, right? It shows up in workplaces, it shows up in schools, in our neighborhoods, and in our policy decisions every single day.
Right. And in professional spaces, it looks like hyper monitoring of Black behavior. It's the constant documentation, the performance reviews that focus on tone instead of impact, the unspoken message that your presence is conditional. And it's also like framed as professionalism. And so we start looking at policies that they put into place. And you could tell that that policy is only going to impact those people that have been minoritized, or they change procedure because someone reached success through the procedure that they had in place. Someone that was not intended to be successful reached success with a policy that was already in place. And so now they have to change the policy. But that professionalism a lot of times ends up being defined through whiteness. What you're really seeing is white comfort being protected through surveillance.
Yeah, and I'm not maybe Baldwin was prophetic or maybe he wasn't. I think he really was a student of history and his surroundings and his experience, his life experience. But he warned us about this too, right? He wrote that they have destroyed and are destroying hundreds of thousands of lives and do not know it, and they do not want to know it.
Mhm.
That ignorance, that innocence again, right? So surveillance allows people not to know. It creates this emotional distance between their actions and the harm those actions cause. Like, I'ma call the police on you, call the police, and police gets there and it becomes a out of control situation. Somebody is on, said person did nothing but look the wrong way and is on the ground in handcuffs, or worst case scenario is fatally injured by a police officer. And first thing you say, that's not what I meant to happen. But this is the what happens when.
Right. Like, okay, but you should have been able to recognize the pattern of how often this happens before you
Exactly.
took that action. How many other people have been, but they have the ability to be innocent and to not have to know some of those things.
Yeah, and it's the same logic that shows up in our politics, right? Over policing, voter suppression, the stripping of power from Black elected officials, the attempted redrawings of maps in Texas and elsewhere, and gerrymandering. These are all forms of surveillance that are paired with control. I need to be able to watch who you're voting for. I need to be able to watch where you're going to vote. I need to be able to watch where and figure out where you're dropping off your ballot and where you're mailing your ballot. And all of these things that show up in ways to always keep tabs on Black and brown folks.
And I look at it like here in Missouri, and I think I've spoken about this before in a previous podcast, but here in Missouri, the St. Louis area is, of course, the St. Louis City proper has a very large Black population. A lot of the elected officials have been Black elected officials. So many of them have been removed from office, campaigned against, over criticized, etc., because of the fact that there's this paternalistic idea that again we need to be monitored or we don't know what we're talking about. Right now we had a mayor, my forever mayor, Tashar Jones, who was voted out of office in favor of someone that was backed by some, really rich, powerful people, predominantly white people,
Mhm.
that supported her to get into office. And she's doing, well, my personal opinion is she's not even half as good as Tashar Jones was. We've had our mayor, not the mayor, excuse me, the sheriff arrested and currently facing federal charges because they analyzed and monitored him for stuff that I don't know the full story on that, I'll be honest, but it just follows a pattern. Like Kim Gardner, we had Kim Gardner that got into office. They criticized her to the point that she ended up resigning, and the governor appointed a new district attorney. They attempted to take over the police board. They did take over the police board there. They took over the St. Louis Public Schools and the board there for a while. And so it's like, here's these Black areas. They tell us, go ahead, vote for the people that you want. If you want these people in charge, you need to vote for them. But then once we vote for them, they do everything that they can in order to reverse that vote and thereby disenfranchise the people
Mhm.
that voted in those individuals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's watching Black communities closely while denying them resources. That's another thing that ended up happening. It's treating Black political power as inherently suspicious, and it's justified through these fear narratives that sound reasonable if you don't interrogate them. If you don't sit and say, "Hey, that doesn't quite sound right," or "That seems very stereotypical," then, yeah, you can accept them as long as you don't critically think about them.
Yes. Because that critical thinking piece is
Ooh, that's kicking some people's butt.
and, being able to analyze things from A to B without being a
Mm,
sheep and
mm,
not thinking for yourself.
that is kicking America's ass.
Whew. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So let's bring it back to James Baldwin one more time. That fixed star metaphor. And let's connect it to modern politics of fear. To the resurgence of talking points that allude to the great replacement theory, to Trump's rhetoric against or about persecuted Christians, and J.D. Vance's assertion that white people no longer have to apologize for being white in America.
Mm,
All of these are just simply more stories that rely on the belief that the social order collapses when Black people and racialized groups are no longer fixed, monitored, or subordinate. It's that law and order, right? It's that moral panic about education and books that talk about race and racism and slavery and, civil rights and Jim Crow and what is in those books that are going to make white kids feel uncomfortable. And, but what's their solution? The solution is always the same. Renew control over who is seen, who belongs, because we are definitely seeing this
mm,
play out in national politics about who belongs in this country and who this country belongs to, right? And
right.
then who holds the power, who continues to hold the power, and then what they're doing any means necessary to keep that power. Because in their minds, if they don't monitor,
Mhm.
and they don't surveil, and they don't keep their pulse on, what Black folks are doing or other racialized groups are doing to get a leg up in this world. If that does not happen, then the social order will collapse. Period.
Correct. Let's talk about what's at stake. Surveillance is not really about safety. It's about preserving hierarchy. It's about protecting comfort at the expense of freedom.
Yeah, and Baldwin leaves us with a warning. He reminds us that refusing to confront reality does not prevent destruction. I'm going to say that one more time. Refusing to confront reality doesn't prevent destruction, it only delays it.
And if we want a different future, we have to be honest about who is being watched, who is being protected, and why, and change some of those systems that allows this to continue to thrive.
So, before we close, we always make space for Black joy because joy itself is disruptive and it disrupts surveillance. Joy refuses the idea that Black life must always be justified. We
Yep.
deserve to live, to live, to live, and to just be. I ain't got to do nothing but what? Stay Black and die.
Right. And in this moment, joy is also a form of resistance.
Yes.
And so my Black joy this week is Threads. Threads. It is a wonderful place to be. Like if you get your algorithm trained just right, it is wonderful. So, for example, there was one discussion about deviled eggs right before Thanksgiving. This Black woman was talking about the fact that her wife was going to make 28 deviled eggs for 5 people, and she felt that that was too many deviled eggs. I wish I could find a thread because I was so tickled because the commenters were jumping on there like, "Excuse me, ma'am, but I could eat 10 deviled eggs while making the other 18." So there was I mean, there's just so many, and every morning I wake up and there's something wonderful that just makes me fall deeper in love with Black people and with our capacity to create joy, to create so many wonderful things on a regular basis. The other part that I like about it is because there are a lot of great people on there. One of my favorite people on there is Gabby Sidibe's
Yes,
husband.
yes.
Oh, he is wonderful.
I
Brandon,
love him. I
his
love me some Brandon.
handle is Brandon Tour. Brandon Tour. I should we gonna send him a letter, ask him to be on the podcast with us too. We're
'Cause
gonna ask.
baby,
But
he love him some Gabby,
oh
okay?
my gosh, I
And not
love it.
only that, he be out here reading the people for filth in the
Uh,
person, on the
Phil,
threads, on the IG, in the DMs, out loud, wherever they at, he reads, okay?
he does not play, but I love the fact that in general though, people on there when when folks get to tripping and getting outrageous, people will be like, "No, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
No, this ain't us. You need to go back over to X for that nonsense. We don't do that here." So I love Threads. That's my moment of joy. I need everybody to just every
Get on it. Listen.
curate your algorithm until it shows you all the wonderful people I get to see on a daily basis that tickle me to pieces. Girl,
So
I'm gonna tell you this one last part.
yeah, go ahead.
Today, there was a woman that I guess it was for like reaction farming or whatever it is, but she posted, we need in 2026, we need to normalize women proposing to men.
Mm-mm.
And there was a woman, I'm posted it on my Facebook. There was a woman who said, I will arrange the grains of sand on a beach in alphabetical order. She was like, I'm married, but I will arrange the grains of sand on a beach in alphabetical order before I propose to a man. And ooh, that tickled me so bad.
Listen, I wasn't even gonna talk about this, but right as you was saying it, it made me think about a thread you sent me when a woman, this Black woman was like, "I'm thinking about moving to Florida. I've gotten bored of Texas racism, and it's time to experience a new kind."
And people started people started being like, well, if you come up here, this is the type of racism we got.
She said, so she basically was like, at least, so somebody responded and said, at least you'll have a Disney and a Universal nearby when you go out there. Racism with a bit of wonder. And then somebody else, desert racism with a side of tacos in Arizona was my next stop after Disneyland racism. And my favorite was, wait, because this one had me weak. Okay, Minnesota will give you a neat 4-season side quest if you're up for it. Racism on ice skates, racism while we stroll lakes, racism with no lips, racism with a hot dish. Do you live here while you're shoveling your driveway and unprompted, I don't see color to zhuzh up your day? Immigrant heavy, so you'll eat good and the food has spice. They'll handle Scandinavian names with ease, but with yours, they'll blink thrice. Oh, and don't worry about the hard R because that's not Minnesota nice.
I listen, that was another day that I was on Threads, and when I tell you, I spent
Weak.
I don't know how long on that one alone, just hollering because they had so many different types, and
The poetry. The poetry.
it make Threads honestly, like, consistently reminds me why and how much I love our people, and so
Cause we serious, but we ain't serious.
oh, listen,
We
there was
we
a
we
woman
laugh
that
to
she's
get by.
dealing with there was another thread, there's a woman, she's dealing with grief, and she managed to make that grief funny, and then people kept coming on, so she was talking about how her dad passed away, and then her mom passed away, like, 6 months later, and she was like, "Girl, you didn't have to follow that man like that." She was like, "Girl, you didn't have to follow that man like that." There was another woman that was like, "My granny died the day before Thanksgiving," and I was like, "If you didn't wanna cook, just say that." I just love us so much.
Listen,
All
we
right,
love
so
her
that's my
all
joy.
day.
What's
Yes.
your joy, twin?
My joy is that Don Lemon,
Mhm.
because Don Lemon ain't always been invited to the cookout, but then something changed, and Don was like, "Yes, Lord, I understand. I see what they doing."
Right,
And Don, we love Don. Don got let go of from CNN, but everybody know when Don hosted CNN's New Year's Eve party, it was hilarious because you never knew what you was gonna get. Don was always lit. And after a certain amount of drinks, he forgot that he was on
yeah,
broadcast television.
mhm,
So, if you don't know, he started his own YouTube channel and
mhm,
he does, some of the same investigative reporting and going out talking to the people and stuff on his YouTube channel. But this year, he doing his own New Year's Eve special. He doing it right here in New Orleans because those of you who may or may not know, Don is from Louisiana, from Baton Rouge,
ooh,
but he is an adopted son of
see,
New Orleans. And so, of course, he got here. So New Year's Eve we know is on Wednesday. So he didn't got here on Monday. And Don already turned up. He is at Neo's already. He was at Neo's yesterday and he got a Bow Wow punch. And for those of you who know what the Bow Wow punch is, and those of you who don't know, it's about 32 plus ounces of straight liquor and a splash of juice to make it pink. Listen, I took 2 sips of that one time, and I was like, "I'm officially tipsy. I don't need no more." And it's cheap. It's cheap. He had 4
mhm,
lined up and was like, "Ooh, I'm about to get my Bow Wow on. If you don't know the Bow Wow gonna get you right, Don. You are gonna have to walk out. Somebody gonna have to drag you out on your face." So he
listen,
already ready. So I can't wait
well,
to
listen, we
see the
gonna ask
Don
him to
Lemon
be on the
special.
podcast too.
Huh?
We gonna ask him to be on the podcast
Yeah,
too.
we're
All
gonna
they can do is say, "No, twin." That's
no. So
you
everybody we shouted out, Brandon,
yeah,
Don,
everybody, we getting ready to ask y'all, "What's up?"
Locked in King, let's go. Come on through, cause we ready. Hilarious. But I'm so excited for a Don Lemon New Year's Eve. I can't wait. I even looked to see how much tickets were. I'm not gonna spend that money because it's almost $200. I love Don, but I'm gonna watch him for free on YouTube. I would rather not have to deal with parking, people,
And I can stay in my sweatpants.
that part. All from the comfort of my home. I could hear everything and I could laugh. So, all right, y'all. Well, thank you for spending time with us. These conversations we know are always heavy, but we always know that they are necessary, and we hope you know that they're necessary. But as the last segment just proved, we gonna leave you with a good laugh or something good to think about to balance it out.
Right. As Baldwin warned us, if we refuse to reckon with the truth, the fire doesn't disappear, it only waits.
Mm. So we'll see you next time on Heather's on Culture. Love you, twin.
Love you, twin.